Okay, boys, we are back now to discuss the draft and season ahead for one more time. First of all, it leads us to believe that Morris Sham is on his swan song this year. So whenever he decides to go, that's going to be a sad day for the league. We're talking about a legend forever that still plays as shortstop with as good as people half his age. I mean, it's hard to believe.
Managed him last year. He can still play the position, obviously. He can still hit. He's still Mo Shama. Yes, one more time is signifying that. In fact, there were reports that he did retire after last season, which I think it was even announced that he was retiring, but obviously came back for one more season.
He may pull a Brett Favre of sorts with the whole one more time. Could mean one more time as captain.
Could.
At shortstop, probably not.
Perhaps a champion, because if we look at this team, let's go through the team. We'll talk about the big question mark on this team, but a lot of things that are not a question mark.
Obviously you have the guy right in the middle.
Right, so that's not a question. Maybe right in the middle on the bump.
So the thinking in YMSL for the last 3 years is pick maybe, you get to the World Series. And that has not been false in any of those 3 years. Now, he won it once. We know he didn't win it. He's been 1 and 2 in those series. But the team that gets him generally gets a bye and has to win a few playoff games to get to the World Series. And that's been the formula. Now, what's been happening with his teams are they struggle offensively or there is a weakness. We'll get to it, Norman. But I think the way this team drafted, he might have one of his stronger teams.
A lot of people knocked Mo Shama, on the trade that he made for Nabi. He gave up too much. He didn't look at the draft board. He didn't realize that it's a weaker hitting league this year than it was last year. On and on and on. But you were very impressed with what he did with the picks he was given. You had told me previously that you felt he maximized the value of his picks.
Yeah, right away. First of all, I was one that did not think he over-traded for an AB. I think you have to consider how many captains submitted offers, and all that. But second of all, I think with some of the picks he made picks designed for Navy. Like Dano, that's a designed pick. It's a third baseman that's going to make every play out there.
That's also Navy's best friend also.
Sure.
So it's a third baseman that Navy's going to be happy with, and that's going to make every play.
Sure. Then Juber, great second baseman and can hit. That's a designed pick. He designed his team around Navy. I think the big question you have is when you look up here.
Before we go up there, let's talk about how strong this infield is, because Navy, most people hit ground balls against him. They don't tend to drive the ball so far unless you're Joe Greenberg. You're not rocking the ball out,
Yeah.
So Dano, Mo Shama, I assume they're putting H at short center.
I think you're right there.
And Juber at second. Right. And if they switch, whatever.
It's a strong infield.
It's very unlikely Juber plays short center. He's a lefty, right?
I think
he's
so.
a lefty.
Yeah.
I don't think you put lefties at short center.
So you have him at second. And
Bracken
then
used to play short center.
Splitting time, you have Ancona and Ben Rishdi at first base. By the way, Shomer used to play third base as a lefty.
Yeah.
Go figure. It's the only time I've ever seen it. But, you never know.
He definitely surrounded himself with a very strong infield. And like we all are jumping to talk about,
is the outfield.
Listen, he did not draft a true center fielder.
Right. So he couldn't have drafted a top center fielder. Maybe later on he could have gotten. I'm sure he was looking at Carlos in the 40s because he had 3 picks in the 40s.
Yeah.
But Carlos was taken before then.
Sure.
And I'm
he
sure
drafted strong outfielders, but corner positions. That's
exactly.
what he did.
So he drafted 3 very strong corner outfielders.
The only option for him would have been to wait and get Teddy, who went in like the 60s.
Right.
Who played with Navy, I think, 2 of his 3 years.
Now, I don't know that he's going to open with this. He could very well say, maybe Al Zolta is better in center, which then you wouldn't put Bub in left. You'd put Bub in right and maybe Ruby in left.
It can go any way.
He could do
I don't
that.
know. Again, until we get into the camps and actually see what they're doing, we won't know. This is speculation. Also, I had, and it's okay that I say this. I did have a conversation with Bub. He felt like he had a good chance to be the center fielder. That's not confirmed,
Right?
But so we put that there for now. But the point is, you have solid outfielders, but they're going to be a little out of position this year. That is the challenge with this team right now.
That's the big question mark of this team. You managed Bub. I think he can handle center. He's not going to confuse anybody by being Abe J. Cohen in center.
No.
But can he hold down the fort on an AB-led team with a dominant infield? We're going to have to see.
When softball season comes, there are a few people that get into it more than Bub. Bub goes all in. I mean, he loves it from day one. He wants to talk about it. He wants to call you during the week about it. He wants to text message on the SMS feature. He wants to do anything that he can do to talk about softball. He's a gamer. Bub's going to come in and give you everything he has. Now, he's playing right field. Right field is probably the trickiest outfield position to play. The ball slices. You got to take the right angle on it. I think it's a tough transition. I think Bub can do it, but I think it's tough. I think whoever takes that post is going to have some adjustments to make, and maybe he's going to have to understand that.
Sandy, let me ask you. There's no denying here. I think the best arm in that outfield is Al Zolta.
Yeah.
So unless Ruby, I'm not sure. I don't know if Ruby has.
Ruby has a good arm too, but Al Zolta's arm from left field, from where I was standing 2 years ago, left field to that second base throw is perfect. So now the question becomes, like you said, is Al Zolta going to end up taking that center field spot? Because Bub may have the best reads off the bat, but I don't think there's denying Al Zolta's arm strength.
Well, I think on a team like this, let's say Bub's your center fielder instead of Al Zolta, it's going to come down to Mo Shama. Because when a ball goes out to center, Mo Shama, who I think has played with every center fielder there could be, from the greats to the worst, he's going to have to understand that he's going to have to go a little bit deeper to get that cutoff, and he's going to have to take the bulk of the throw to get it home or to get it to third or whatever it is. So we'll see what they do, but obviously they have Naby on the mound. They only need a couple of runs to score a game. What are we thinking of their offense here?
I think they're going to score. I think they're going to score runs. I mean, I think it's going to be a little small ball. You don't see many. I guess Al's got some pop.
But you don't see that classic bopper here.
No, you don't. You're gonna string together hits. Bob, Ruby's a solid hitter. Juber, like you said, and Juber in a big spot steps up. Mo Shama, he's not. He puts the ball where he wants. Dano at the end of last year was lights out with the bat. So I think they have the potential to score for Naby. I think in past years Naby knew that he was gonna have to make 3 runs stick, or whatever it was. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're still going to be challenged at times. Looking at the team now, I think on draft day, I thought they were a little more adept offensively. I think they're going to be challenged, but I think that they'll have an opportunity to score the runs. They have good hitters on the team.
Yeah, Norman and Sandy, let me ask you. Very quietly at the end of the draft for this team, they traded away Albert Sitt. Okay, Albert Sitt is a very good hitter in today's league and also a tremendous right fielder. Where do you think this team stands from that trade? People don't even know that trade happened because it happened at 11:31, 1 minute after. I think that Albert Sitt could have been a good asset to this team.
Well, let me just cut you off. I think that was gamesmanship. Lewis was taken by Mocas, and Lewis, of course, is going to have to play with his son.
Sure.
We see that year in and year out. And at the draft, I don't know if you guys saw, but when they were yelling back and forth, Naby said, well, where'd you want us to take him? And he said, take him where you took Albert Sitt. That's where you should have taken him. And that's exactly who they ended up getting from. So he was setting the table for himself to end up with Albert Sitt, I think. Listen, Louis Patesh is a good hitter,
sure,
and he's a good backstop for his son. And if you want him, you're gonna have to take him there. So I hear you, but I think if they wanted to get their guy, they had to give up something, and that's really where the argument would have been to have taken him.
I like the aspect of the captains policing themselves on that. If you didn't take Lewis where the other captains thought you should have, I'm going to take him, and now it's going to cost you because I'm going to get the guy that I should have gotten. Okay, but he doesn't have the problem this year that Max Sutton had last year of having 2 catchers, Cornman, all that nonsense.
No, he's got his guy.
He doesn't have that, and I liked his late round picks of
Benster.
Ancona and Benster.
Absolutely.
The thing with this team, they don't have a real classic power hitting bopper. They don't, but they have a lot of tough outs. A lot of gritty guys in the batter's box that are going to work counts, starting from Bub, going to Shalou, going to Zolta, Juber, Moshama himself. Dano takes a lot of pitches, and Kona and Benster are not easy outs, and either is Louis Patel.
Look, it's a grinding offense. It's a grinded out team. They can score runs. They're just all going to have to do their jobs. They're not going to get bailed out by a 2-run home, 3-run homer.
Right.
They're going to have to all do their jobs.
Right, and he didn't overdraft H. He got his brother Jaime Shama where Jaime would have normally went.
Right.
Meaning, if a different captain had a pick there, he could have easily taken Jaime.
Yeah.
So I like that he didn't reach for him. He got him at the right spot, and he's a key cog to the
Don't forget about the batting cage.
batting cage comes with Earn,
And so does a clutch hit at least 4 to 5 times this year.
look at that, 4 to 5 clutch hits from Albert Earn Levy.
Go back to the
You heard
tape.
it here.
AB ERA was 3.9 last year, Norman. So if this team puts up 4 or 5 runs a game, that's a winning formula every time.
Maybe walked too many people last year.
42.
I got to see those walks go drastically down this year.
Definitely.
25%, something like that. He was walking bottom of lineups, not like him. I don't think he's going to walk.
And I think you're going to have I don't know about a humbled, but a little more serious. He's lost 2 championships now in a row.
Yeah.
And he's not supposed to lose.
No.
So he's going to come in, I think, a little more. He won the first year and he came back maybe the next year a little overconfident. This year, he had a little bit of a rough go of it this year. He got hit hard in the World Series. He wasn't the best pitcher on the mound in the World Series. So I think he's going to take that seriously. I think you're going to see a little step up in his game also.
Okay, well, I like one more time. They have an emotional roller coaster at third that is coming in hot this year. He is coming in hot with a lot to prove against multiple different teams.
And I'll tell you something. I'm going to speak for the record right now. He should have a chip on his shoulder.
Oh.
Yeah. Daniel Towell was an excellent captain. He won a championship with JT, with whatever you want to say. He's on the trophy as a championship captain, as he should be. He's a guy that gives it 100%. He's a guy that takes it seriously. He's a guy that stays on top of his players. He's a positive reinforcement for the players. Did he have the best team last year? No. They competed week in and week out. If the guy touches third base, he's in the playoffs.
True.
Everybody's going crazy. How did he draft this? He's in the playoffs if Albert Kamau touches third base. He
also took himself and put him in left field when DK didn't show up for big games. DK had a triple, whatever he had. And Dano put himself in left field, made every single play.
He's a gamer. I can't speak to the process that has him not being a captain, and I will not speak to that process because I'm not privy to it. But I know one thing. Daniel Towell did not voluntarily leave his post.
Oh.
And if he wanted to be a captain this season, there is no good reason in my mind that he should not have been a captain.
Okay. Well, you're the historian. You know about captains.
This is unprecedented.
Changing hands more than anybody.
Unprecedented.
Is it unprecedented?
I think it's unprecedented. Listen, you want to tell me the guy had an altercation, the guy got thrown out of a game. I think there is a captain on your board that was thrown out of a game last year and suspended, possibly. You want to tell me that guy loses his post? I'm okay with that. You have to really in my mind, you have to really do something to warrant that. I think Daniel got a raw deal, and I think you're going to see some real emotion from him on the field.
Okay, well, it's another captain's head to bring to the table with Lewis, with Moshama, with Bub even. I see Bub being a future captain. There's a lot of good minds on this team. One more time has some question marks, but they have a lot of answers on the mound. Back after this.